Hello, I am Hilary Hahn, and I am here with...
Jennifer Higdon, composer!
And we've actually spoken for this YouTube channel before, but it has never been by Skype. So I guess this is a follow-up, and I am in Berlin, and you are in not Berlin.
Philadelphia, yes.
So, so that's why we're doing it this way. So since we talked last, you have written another piece that I've played. Would you like to mention anything about that?
Yeah, this piece, Echo Dash, has kind of an interesting design to it. It's a little bit like a puzzle. I thought about the fact that you were going to have quite a few pieces written for you, and I thought, I bet most of the composers are going to end up writing slow works. And so I made the decision to write something really fast. And I thought it would be kind of cool to create a piece where it's like an intricate dance, but it's a dashing dance where you and the pianist would be moving very close together and the rhythms always sounding like you might be kind of stepping on each other. But I also set for myself the challenge of writing it so that the violin part could be played as a solo, and that would work. And the piano part could be played as a solo, that would work. And I also thought it would be cool to make it work where the violin can play with just the right hand of the piano or just the right hand or left hand of the piano, and they should all fit. And so I thought this is kind of a cool way of doing this. So it's kind of like a puzzle put together, a lot of different ways you could play it. But I thought it's kind of a fun piece. I think it's a pretty difficult piece. I think it's very virtuosic. But I knew you could play it, no problem. I've written for you before.
Well, I found that what's tricky about it is finding how the phrasing fits together between the violin and the piano and the pacing, making sure that the energy stays throughout and it doesn't get old. The trick with very active pieces is to really do them justice in that activity. It's easy to kind of go on autopilot. So that's what I've been working on with it. And I think that it's kind of brilliant the way it all fits together. And so it's challenging in the sense that I can find something new to try in it each time. And there is no absolute way to play it. Like some pieces only want to be played one way. And this one it's open. So it's really nice that way.
That's good. I never thought about it, but you're right. That makes sense. I had never thought about it like that. Yeah, cool.
And why did you call it Echo Dash? Is it to do with the way that they interact?
Yeah, that's part of it. I thought, well, this is like a really short dash down a track. It happens, I think it's like 2 minutes or a minute and a half even. It's a dash, like a 100-yard dash, but I also thought about the fact that the two voices are so close to each other and imitating that it's like a really close echo. Mm-hmm. And you never know which person is leading the echo, which is the primary voice and which is the echo, and that's always shifting. So I thought, well, Echo Dash, I thought it sounds kind of cool.
It's not a relay.
Page, why not?
And so actually I was curious, something you just said caught my attention. Why did you think that most people would write slower pieces?
I thought because you're so well known for your Bach, and it's so beautiful, and I knew that the way most composers would think, they'd be like, Hilary's tone sounds so great, I've got to write something lyrical. I just figured they would automatically kind of go in that direction. Mm-hmm. And I thought about doing a slow piece too, but then I thought, everybody may be doing a slow piece, so maybe I should do something fast. I thought, what neat if you have like a variety of pieces, And so, I don't know, have you found that to be, has there been a preponderance of slow or a preponderance of fast? Is it, no? Mostly slow?
Not necessarily, not that the pieces themselves are all slow, not at all, but a lot of the pieces have some slower lyrical element. They might shift to a quicker section at times, but people definitely have been wanting to write things that have lyricism in them. So it's nice, it is nice to have that variety, but there's lyricism in your work too. It's just a different way of showing it. So it's not incompatible. It's not like all these pieces are the same and then yours is different. It's actually that they're all different from each other in the way they balance the different elements that the violin can portray.
Oh, that makes sense. And, it's so beautiful. I love, as a composer, showing off the lyrical quality of the violin, too. So I have to admit that my first temptation is always to do that, even if it's just long tones and I have something going over the top of it. But it's, I thought, well, it might make a nice contrast. I don't know. It's kind of a calculated guess, I guess, on my part.
Yeah, it's been really interesting seeing what people have written, and there's still some coming in, so who knows? And everyone has a different idea of what an encore is. So it kind of, it kind of depends.
Right. That makes sense.
There's that personal history for each composer as well, and the expectations. So you said in an earlier conversation that we had that you started working on Echo Dash. The timing was kind of interesting with the concerto.
Yeah, I had learned about the Pulitzer Prize on April 12th, and I think I started Echo Dash on April 14th. And it was actually the next thing on my schedule. I mean, your encore piece. And I thought, wow, this is really appropriate because your head usually after something like a Pulitzer Prize is quite a buzz, and it's very hard to think clearly. And there tends to be a panic sensation because you suddenly realize that everybody is watching everything you're doing. And a lot of reporters are asking. In fact, they said, oh, are you nervous about writing the next piece? So somehow it was perfect that it was this piece because I was like, oh, well, I've written a piece for Hilary. It was kind of a big piece, so I can handle this. So in a way, I think it helped me a lot. But it also was kind of inspiring. It might have also, now that I think about it, may account for the speed and the tempo of your piece.
Yeah, I should just mention for those people who haven't been following the interviews that the Pulitzer Prize was for the Violin Concerto that you wrote. So it was a natural extension, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it took the pressure off to be writing a shorter form piece because it wasn't like I have to make another big statement right here. I can write this thing that can be anything within this period of time. Was that an element?
Yeah, actually it did help. That was a huge help because it's much easier to get your head wrapped around a piece that's just a couple of minutes. And the piece I wrote after that actually was something for wind ensemble. It was 18 minutes, and the piece after that was 25. It was an orchestral suite. So in a way, your piece kind of helped me ease back into composing live.
Just get over that hump a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Dash over it. Get there. And then go.
Quick, run past this moment. It worked, though. Yeah, it really, in many ways, it felt like good luck. It felt like good luck. Thanks for that, Hilary.
Whatever I can do. Well, actually, I wanted to ask about writing a short piece versus a bigger piece. Everyone has a different take on that. What is your take on it?
Well, I think when you're writing a short piece, the primary thing is to be very concise and not wander off into other worlds. You want to make one world, and you want to stay in that world. It's a little bit like a roller coaster ride where you don't want things changing so much that it makes the people sick on the roller coaster ride. You stick with an idea and you run as fast as you can with the idea. So I've written short orchestra pieces before, which tends to throw people. They're like, oh, orchestra pieces. They think big ensemble, therefore it must be a big piece. But there's no reason why you can't write same thing, a little short miniature piece for orchestra. So I find it an interesting challenge. It's actually trickier than it would seem because the tendency is to want to develop ideas and go on and on. You can't do that. You need to develop as much as you can as quickly as you can. So it's an interesting challenge.
How do you pick that thing that it's going to be?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, you think about the occasion you're writing for.
Oh.
And in this case, because I knew it was going to be an encore, and because I did calculate that most people would write a slow lyrical work, maybe I was just too hyper at the time, actually, to write a slow lyrical work. Now that I think about it, I think I was a little too excited. It took me about 10 months to calm down after the Pulitzer.
It's a good reason to be excited, though.
It is, I know. And so I think for me, because I knew that you could play anything, and because I knew this could be kind of a nice contrast to the piece that you had, just that idea alone kind of spurred my imagination on.
And so it's not, you don't feel limited by writing a shorter piece. It's just a different kind of thing.
Challenge.
Cool. What are you working on now?
I am working on an opera, about as different as it gets from a short encore piece. So a piece that's between 2 and 3 hours long that has lots of singers on the stage and a big orchestra. I'm writing an opera on Cold Mountain, Charles Fraser's book, for Santa Fe Opera and the Opera Company of Philadelphia. So I'm having to really readjust my thinking because the fact is I have to plan a piece that's going to run for an evening. It's a really different feeling, and I'm not used to doing something that big. So, but I like challenges. I like doing something that's new. something that makes me explore. So I've been studying a lot of scores, studying the voice, trying to figure out how to balance it all.
Well, a couple questions related to that then. One would be if you can maybe just explain for the viewers, because people hear about operas being difficult to write, but what are the phases of writing an opera? You know, what are the different things that go into it? And then also for you with the experience trying to figure out how to write for an evening, like what have you found so far as helpful?
Well, the biggest thing, I think, first of all, is to find a story that you identify with. Because when I started looking 5 years ago for stories, it's taken me like 3 or 4 years to find something that would really work. I found Coal Mountain and realized that I'd grown up about 40 miles from the actual location of Coal Mountain. I grew up in East Tennessee on one side of the Smoky Mountains, and Coal Mountain is actually over in North Carolina, right on the other side of the ridge. It's a coincidence. When I started reading that book, though, I kind of recognized the rhythms of the speaking, and the characters in the book seemed very real. I think I knew some of these people back in East Tennessee. So first you have to find a story that you identify with, because you want it to resonate, because you're going to be living with it for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. The next thing is to take a story that big and try to cull it down into something manageable, because it takes a lot longer to sing a line than it is just to read a line.
Yeah.
And so I work with a librettist. My librettist, Jean Shearer, is very experienced in writing operas, which is good because this is my first opera. So I wanted someone who knew how to shape words for singing, but also pull a drama down to a more manageable size. Then I just started trying to figure out how to handle voices and balance them with an orchestra. I realized that instead of thinking about it as a 2.5-hour piece, maybe I should think of it as a bunch of smaller pieces that will fit together to build drama. Then you try to figure out where are the high points in the story. Where does the drama need to be in the music itself? What's drama from the singers versus drama of the orchestra? Because often that's not always the same thing. Sometimes you don't really want the orchestra there. And it's a lot of balancing. I have to admit I'm writing and showing it to people, and eventually we're going to get to the point where we're workshopping. Most people don't know this, though. You're given deadlines where you write, like the first act, just the piano vocal score, mm-hmm. and turn that in, and then you do a piano vocal score for the second act, you turn that in, and then you orchestrate the whole thing. So there are all these different steps that have to happen. I know. It's a really hefty process that I've had to...
But that doesn't translate the piano to orchestra, does it?
It doesn't. And you know what I have to do, because I write what's known as a short score, which means I have the vocal lines on top, and then I've got like 8 lines below that where I can write anything. And I sometimes will mark, oh, the basses are going to do this and the flute will do this. Then I have to take all of that and try to get it down into a piano score. And then I have to orchestrate it into a full orchestra part, which is expanding it. So there are a lot of like intermediate steps. It's not like just writing an orchestra piece. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to it. And then at some point we'll actually workshop this stuff.
What does that mean?
We'll try it out with singers. We'll go to some place, and in our case it's going to actually be Curtis. They've agreed to do this, and we're going to have singers, and we'll have someone at the piano playing, and we'll try out the voice parts to see, does it work? Does it work for the particular voices I'm writing for? And then I have to go back and make changes, because I think, because it's also a play that's occurring on the stage, there's a lot of drama, timing for what an audience wants, which is a little bit different than just writing pure music. So there's a lot to think about.
Do you get a lot of...
I'm actually juggling like 24 chainsaws simultaneously in a bowling ball.
But don't cut off your head.
I'm trying not to. This may be my last interview ever.
Do you get a lot of input from people then? I mean, if this is a new process...
Yeah, I'm seeking out all advice that I can, showing people musical lines, sometimes just the vocal part. And sometimes if I have a question, I'll look at a bunch of other opera scores to figure out how maybe Benjamin Britten handled it, and then I'll look at how Puccini handled it, and then Mozart, because everyone does it differently. But there are little answers buried in all of those scores. So I'm hoping to find the answers. And then sometimes my cats just come in and help me. Sometimes you never know where the answers are going to come from.
Piano with a computer keyboard.
Play this part for me. Oh, I like that too. Yeah, write it down.
Oh, that's cute. How do you find your people you get advice? What?
They think they can write.
Well, they get some input.
Yeah.
So how do you find, I guess the last question is, since you're established and you have a lot of experience yourself, how do you find the people that you go to for more advice?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I seek out people who are known in the opera world. And when I was first starting this process and I was trying to find the librettist, I must have asked so many different other composers who've done operas before, singers who've worked with composers and librettists. I asked conductors. I have had so many conversations just trying to get a feel for how do you find the right librettist, because in a way that's an important relationship. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of questioning of what you do creatively, and you want to find someone. It's like having a good dance partner that it's a smooth dance, but they challenge you enough. I don't think it's good to have someone who says, oh, that's great, that's great, that's great. Mm-hmm. You really need to kind of have a conversation back and forth. So it's asking a lot of questions and being willing to take advice. And all along the way, I've been telling people, if I'm doing anything idiotic, tell me, because I'm sure I'm going to do something idiotic. I'm really new to this, and it's very different than writing basically an instrumental piece. It's amazing how different it is. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed it'll work. I'll find out on August 1st, 2015, because that's when the premiere is happening. It seems like it's coming really fast, too.
I guess I shouldn't hold my breath for 3 years, because I do want to be able to experience this.
Not good.
Oh, that's really exciting. I look forward to being able to hear that then.
Definitely. Bring me good luck, Hilary. You always do.
Cross fingers for you. Double crossed.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you,
Good
Hilary.
luck.
Take care and travel safely.
All right. You too.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.